Yeah, I felt like now would be an appropriate time to do a video about health anxiety. I believe this is something that people with anxiety disorder frequently experience and deal with. It's especially insidious because once it takes hold, I find that it's really hard to get yourself to stop paying attention to every little symptom, every little physical anomaly or idiosyncrasy. So I felt like it'd be a good video to do, especially since I've had so much experience with health anxiety. So, as I mentioned in my introductory video, I'm not a doctor, and anybody experiencing any mental health condition, you need to go seek professional help and follow their advice. That is the best, that's the best way to get better as quickly as possible. Now, in my introductory video, I mentioned that I have I had about 2 years after I started having panic attacks where I still didn't know what was going on exactly. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew that anxiety played a role. I wasn't a fool, but the symptoms were so physiological. I was having physical symptoms. So when you're having physical symptoms that you've never had in 31 years on this earth at that time, then you think you're going to be able to find a physical answer. And that is where health anxiety can take root. So, because my nervous system was so hypersensitive, especially after a year or so, where I hadn't had any answers to what was wrong, every little thing, I would notice if I exercised, I would pay attention to my heart rate. I could hear my heart beat in my ear when I never could normally hear my heart beat in my ear. There was a lot of things like that. Also, more recently, you'll notice that one of my shorts videos is about benign fasciculation syndrome. And I had no idea what this was, but approximately around 2007, my calves started twitching. And they started twitching constantly. All the time, my calves were twitching. And, initially, if you've been on Google, if you're going to look up twitching, you know what you're going to get for what it's going to hit on. It's going to hit on ALS. It's going to hit on the most serious, scariest, most click-effective, searches. So, that's the first thing you start thinking. Now, because at the time I wasn't experiencing health anxiety, those first couple of years that my calves twitched, I didn't think anything of it. But more recently, around when the pandemic started, I had what seemed to be quite an increase in the fasciculations, in the twitching. And I also started to get tongue twitches. And that can take on a life of its own when you start paying attention to the strength in every limb, to the twitching in any muscle. And one of the things that, helped me realize how insane I was being was that I was sitting in front of the fan and the sleeve on my shirt was fluttering. And I'm sitting there thinking I'm having muscle twitches in my arm. That's what I think the entire time. And I look down and I see it's just the fan blowing against my shirt. And then the multiple tests to see, maybe you have a doctor look at you. They say, well, your strength is better than mine. Well, you do these your own physical tests to see if you're losing function. And, this can be a slippery slope, and it can lead you to a very dark place where you're unable to function because constantly you're worried about what's wrong with you. And I've been there many times. And for those of you out there experiencing anxiety, panic disorder, health anxiety, whatever anxiety condition you might be experiencing, this is not something that, health anxiety is not something that doesn't happen to the general population. I don't have the exact statistics in front of me, but there's a very high percentage of second-year medical students who start to believe they have one of the serious conditions that they've studied. And those are neurotypical people. Those are people who are not being treated for anxiety. Those are people who, have chosen as a profession to work in the medical field. And yet just the suggestion of it, and when you start to realize how many things there are that, how many different syndromes and, conditions there are, then, and you start to add up, oh, well, I have this symptom, I have that symptom, then all of a sudden you start drawing conclusions. And I think part of it's being intelligent and analytical, right? I mean, my experience, most of the people that I have met with similar conditions, with one of these anxiety conditions, are very deep thinkers. They're very analytical. We spend a lot of time doing, our own risk assessments, even before maybe we were ever officially treated for anxiety. And, that in and of itself can be a strength in certain fields especially. But when it comes to your own personal health, it is not a strength. It ends up shutting down your life. You end up thinking, I remember at different times thinking, I'm dying anyways. So what does it matter? I know that I'm losing strength in a limb. I know I'm going to get this diagnosis of ALS, or other times, I was convinced maybe I had a brain tumor. Whatever it was, I was convinced that there was a hidden health issue that hadn't been diagnosed that was going to lead to my demise. And not just a regular old death, but a cruel, horrible death that will affect my family in the most negative way possible. And that lends right into another thing that I think helps foster health anxiety, and that's catastrophic thinking. When we catastrophize, and we can do it, people with anxiety disorder can do this with the best of them. We'll take a situation that, is there risk involved? We know that there's risk involved getting your mail in the morning. There's a risk involved when you go to sleep tonight. There's a risk involved certainly when you get in an automobile. Are these risks really super high risk? Well, generally not. If you obey the speed limits and you respect the law of gravity and physics, you're probably not going to cash out. I mean, if you can get affordable health insurance, or life insurance, that they've done the bean counting for you, and you're not likely to die from any of those things. And unless you start acting in an irrational or insane manner. So, you have to really work hard not to catastrophize, not to do the what if thinking. Because what if thinking, like I said, and if you're an investigator, or you're somebody doing some type of analysis, it's great. Those are great questions. Those will help you in your field. But if you're just looking at your life and trying to keep things from happening that in the end you have no control over, there's most of what happens in our life we can't control. Right? Most of it, those are the facts. What we can control is our own actions. And that little bit of control that we have is the most important thing. It defines who we are. It defines the effect that we're going to have on others, our relationships with others, our own actions, right? So it really comes down to adhering to, the Serenity Prayer and what it tells you. You can't worry about things that you can't control. that will get you nowhere. It will drive you insane, and it will make you also feel powerless because the very nature of it, you can't control it. Once you get on a plane, the pilot, the weather conditions, the maintenance they've done on the plane, that's what you got to trust. You're not going to, be able to save yourself in that situation. And the risk of death flying, on a plane is infinitesimal. It's way more likely that you'll die in an automobile. But that doesn't matter to people with anxiety disorder. To us, anything we can't control those are the really scary things. When we look around and we know we're in an environment, like for those who suffer from social anxiety, they're in a large crowd. They know they can't control their interactions the way they would like to be able to control them. And, anyways, I don't want to get off topic. This video was intended to be about health anxiety. So what I have found is there are a couple of things I've found that do help. First of all, ask somebody outside of yourself to do an eye test on you. And a lot of the times you probably will get, laughter when you think you've got a brain tumor, you've got cancer, you've got, some physiological thing that's, where your health is deteriorating. And that can help ease you. Although I do find there's a risk there of continuously asking them and them wanting to kill you, But another thing you can do, a lot of the time you'll have like, for instance, with my muscle twitching, I would have a muscle twitch in a certain area and I'd get focused on that. My tongue was one of my big things that consumed me. I started mispronouncing words. I mean, it was really bad. So what I would do is I would try to take the focus from that and put it directly on some other thing. Try to worry about something else. And if you can get your mind to take the bait, you will soon realize that the thing that you thought was wrong is not wrong with you. If you start focusing on the muscle twitch in your leg or in your back or the pain in your head, whatever it is, you'll notice that you don't have difficulty pronouncing your words anymore. You don't have any issue with that. Also, and this, I probably should have mentioned this first. If you are legitimately concerned that you have a physiological health problem, get checked out. If you have good health insurance, get yourself checked from the top of your head to the tip of your toe. And if all the tests come back clear, you're going to have to accept the fact that I had to accept that, well, your health might not be perfect. It's your physical health is not the cause of your issues. Instead, you are experiencing a mental health issue. You are experiencing anxiety. And, that's the main thing. You don't want any type of anxiety to control your life. And I have found health anxiety is one of those ones, especially because of the advent of Google. Excuse me, don't get me wrong. It's amazing to be able to do so much research in such quick order. But then again, there is the pitfall of, for what if thinkers. And you don't want to get, thrown down that rabbit hole. So get yourself checked out. If the doctors say you're good, trust what the doctors say. You're not a doctor, probably. Trust what the doctors say. And just try to ignore it like it's not there. And the other thing I've done sometimes, say, okay, I'm dying. So just let it go. I'm going to die. This is going to stop working. The headaches are going to get worse. The tumor is going to make it so I throw up, I fall down, whatever. And what will happen if you just say, okay, just like with panic attacks, When they happen, just let them happen. If you say, okay, well, I'm dying. And now I know that's easier said than done. We all don't, none of us are looking forward to the day of our demise. But the fact of the matter is, it's that fear, that overwhelming fear of something you can't control that's fostering, this obsession where you can't move on with your life, even if it doesn't make sense. You'll also notice with anxiety, if the thing that you're worried about does actually happen, it's not nearly as bad as the worrying about the thing was. You can worry about something, it's always worse than the actual experience. That's been my experience anyways. So this is my second video. Feel free to like, share, subscribe. I don't claim to be an expert. I'm not. The only way I'm an expert is that I've suffered with this for 21 years. I want people to know they're not alone. I want people to know they're not going crazy. And I want people to seek help, get the help they need so that they don't waste. I wasted so much time. I've wasted so much of my life consumed with various aspects of this condition. And if I can keep somebody from wasting the most precious commodity we have, then even if it just helps a few people, it would make me feel so good. I would feel like a lot of the stuff I've suffered hasn't been in vain. So thank you very much. And until my next video, see you again and take care.